Good morning, class. I am Jericho J. Joseph, but you can call me Mr. Joseph for short. And I am your assigned teachers for today's discussion. I would like to tell everyone that please participate, listen, and take down notes some of those important information dahil mamaya after ng discussion, magkakaroon po tayo ng short recitation and quiz. So galingan nyo class sa inyong pakikinig. But before tayo mag-start for the discussion, may I request Ms. Chavez to lead our prayer for today's meeting?
Okay po, sir.
Our loving God, we praise and thank you for the blessings you have given to us. Thank you for giving us a chance to continue learning amidst the pandemic that has caused a lot of changes in our lives. Bless us with the wisdom to understand our lesson and the joy to learn with our classmates. Bless also our teachers as they impart to us the value of learning. Help us to become children you want us to be. This we pray of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
That was a very solemn and wonderful prayer, Ms. Chavez. Thank you for your participation. But anyways, our topic for today's discussion is all about choosing a budget type and management performance review using ROI or return on investment. So class, para sa inyong kaalaman, this topic focuses on budgeting and managing ROI, which provides a framework for the food and beverage establishment to controls and maximize their own income and expenses. Pero bago tayo magpatuloy sa ating discussion, nais ko lamang ipaalam sa inyong lahat ang ating learning outcomes, which is essential para malaman natin kung ano nga ba ang mga dapat nating matutunan para sa ating discussion sa araw na ito. So by the end of this module, you as a student should be able to: first, discuss the concept of budgeting. Second is to identify the different types of budgeting methods. Third is to define the concept of return on investment. And last is to demonstrate the proper way of measuring management performance review using ROI. So nakapaloob rito ang mga sumusunod. Ang una rito ay ang budget and budgeting, the proper way of choosing a budget type, how to manage a performance review using ROI, at ang ating final conclusion. Pero class, ang tanong, handa na ba kayo matuto?
Yes po, sir. Excited na po kami.
Okay, magsimula na tayo. So class, when you hear the word budget, what ideas or thoughts that comes into your mind? Anyone from this class?
Ako po, sir.
Yes, Miss Makapak.
For me, sir, budget is a financial planning tool that allows you to plan how much you will spend or save each month. So basically po, it also allows you to track your spending habits and expenses po.
Very good, Miss Pakapak. That was a straight to the point answer. So class, the budget is a written plan for a particular department financial performance for the period under consideration. Meaning to say, ang budget ay isang forecast, projection o pagtataya ng mga ginastos o gastos ng isang establishment. Ito ay isang plano ng pagkilos na ang layunin ay upang matugunan ang isang paunang natukoy na layunin. And usually class, the budget for the business or department was primarily created for only 1 year. But ating pagkakatandaan, the period could be less or more than a year, so it varies from the different establishment rule or frameworks. Moreover, a budget is often drawn up for financial year and contains information about anticipated sales and associated business costs within that period. So class, sa tulong nito, the business or the establishment can see how well they are expecting to perform within that year. At sa pamamagitan rin nito, the actual performance of that particular establishment can be monitored against this original proposed plan. So sa madaling salita, ang budget ay isang plano upang tulungan ang establishment na pangasiwaan ng kanilang pera at ganun din ang kanilang plano sa hinarap. So dumako naman tayo ngayon sa budgeting. So class, kung ang budget ay tinatawag na written plan, ano naman kaya ang ibig sabihin ng budgeting para sa inyong palagay? Yes, Miss San Miguel.
For me po, sir, budgeting is a process of creating a spending plan for your money and can help to ensure that there is always enough money to pay for food, bills, and other expenses. So sa madaling salita, having a budget is a good tool to avoid credit card debt and promote saving, especially in any small businesses owner po.
Very well said, Miss San Miguel. So class, when we say budgeting, this is mainly an activity preparing your budgets, which means class, it is a process of looking at a business estimated income and expenditures, or yung tinatawag nating expenses. Ang budgeting ay iyong ginagawa upang mabalanse ang ating mga gastusin kakabit ng iyong kabuuang kinita. So alam nyo ba class na kapag hindi nabalanse ang dalawang aspeto, which is the expenses and income, at mas malaki pa ang ginastos mo kaysa sa kinita mo, dito na tayo nagkakaroon ng malaking problema. Well, in fact, maraming mga establishment, especially those small enterprises, na madalas labas lamang sila ng labas ng pera at hindi na nila namamalayan na nagiging malaki na pala ang kanilang expenses kaysa sa kabuuang kinikita ng business nila. Kung kaya't unting-unti na silang nalulubog sa utang at habang tumatagal ay nalulugi rin ang kanilang tinatayong business. So para maiwasan natin ang mga bagay na iyan, nararapat lamang na matuto tayong humawak at maging masinop sa pagbabudget ng pera. Sinasabi nga ng iba na dapat maging katulad tayo ng mga Chinese sa pagbabudget ng pera. Pero ano nga ba ang halaga ng budgeting lalong-lalo na sa isang establishment? Ating alamin. Where indeed, in the business world, we cannot afford to overstate the importance of a budgeting. At every stage of decision-making, planning, and coordination, budget are the essential tools for food and beverage management control. Why? Because it gives a direction to the business organization internally, where it needs to run and will helps management in communication and guiding the team with full clarity. On the other hand, this document is also useful to the outside world. At tinitiyak rin ito na magkakaroon ng isang business establishment ng isang financial plan na tutulong upang maiwasan o limitahan ang sobrang pag-aaksaya at paglalabas ng pera sa isang establishment. Kaya't masasabi natin na malaki ang ginagawa o inaambag ng isang budgeting lalong-lalo na sa paglago ng isang business establishment. So class, naintindihan niyo po ba ang concept ng budgeting at budget sa isang business establishment?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, that's great. Pero class, ano nga ba ang mga budget type and how it affects the business overall success rate? So let's start our discussion with the first budget type, which is called the fixed cost budget. When we say fixed cost budget, by the definition itself do not vary proportionally with volume. You know what class, the food service operation often start with a fixed cost budget dahil ito ang pinakamadaling i-construct dahil it only counts only one level of business activity. And from the word itself, fixed budget, meaning ito ay financial plan that is not modified or hindi madaling nababago for the variation in actual activity. It is the most commonly used type of budget because it is easier to construct than a flexible budget. And aside from that, the fixed cost budget is an adequate tool to the food service establishment because it can reasonably predict sales volumes if the actual sales approximate to the budgeted level and if the comparison are meaningful. And alam nyo ba class na sa pamamagitan rin itong fixed cost budget na ito, the variances can be easily calculated and explained. So how to treat labor in fixed costs? Well, the number covers required to reach the targeted sales can be multiplied by the labor cost per cover to find the expected labor rate. Then as the year progresses, actual labor costs are compared to these expected labor costs. A simple example serves to demonstrate the process of analyzing variances. So assuming our estimated labor rate are equals to $4.25 per hour, and our estimate labor usage are equals to 1.5 hours per cover. So the amount attributed to each can be determined by computing the following variances. By the way class, pag sinabi nating variance, ito ay tumutukoy sa pagkakaiba or difference between the budgeted and planned costs and the actual costs incurred. So ito ang magiging formula natin para sa pag-compute ng ating actual variance. Actual rate minus estimated rate times actual hours is equal to variance. So based on the given problem, para malaman natin ang actual rate is kailangan nating i-divide ang total labor cost by the number of hours. So 33,000 divided by 7,600 is equal to $4.34 per hour. So ito ang magiging actual rate natin for this problem. So itong nakuha nating actual rate is ima-minus natin sa ating estimated rate which is about $4.25. Bali, 4.34 minus 4.25 is equal to 0.09 times the actual hours which is 7,600 for the total variance of $684. Para naman sa labor efficiency, ang gagawin natin is actual hours minus estimated hours. So bali 7,600 minus 7,500 hours is equal to 100 hours. Then para malaman natin ang ating actual variance, i-multiply natin iyan sa ating standard rate na $4.25 per hour. So 100 times $4.25 is equal to $425 which is ang ating nakuhang variance para sa labor efficiency. So with this calculation na makikita nyo dito, the management can fully understand how the variance happen and work to avoid repeating mistakes. The second type class is what we call the variable budgets. So this is also called a flexible budget as it relates to direct costs. These are plans that are made to change with actual level of the business activity. Meaning, ito ay mas madali nating mabago kaysa sa ating fixed costs. And they are based on the premise that a budget can derive from whatever volume level is attained. In order to derive a budget-based volume level, you must first separate costs into fixed and variable categories. These are costs associated with the variable factors of production. So ang example nito ay ang directly our labor and the food beverage costs. Para sa total costs, the fixed costs should not change with the volume levels. So they are added into separately to determine the total cost. So ang ating budget formula dito na ginagamit rin for a typical restaurant may be as follows. Total cost is equal to variable cost percentage times revenue level plus fixed cost na makikita nyo rito. Assume that the information represented in the Seabreeze Hotel and Restaurant with Milo Thomas as the controller. So ito po ang ating gagamiting situation para dito sa ating variable cost. Applying the above equation, the budget total is equals to $10.56 times anticipated guest cover plus $8,750. So if the anticipated guest cover volume is about 9,000 for January and 10,000 for February, then using the formula above, we can find the following. So for January, $10.56 times 9,000 is equals to $95,040 plus $8,750 is equals to $103,790 for our variance. And for February, $10.56 times 10,000 is equals to $105,600 plus $8,750 is equals to $114,350 for our variance. So class, ating tandaan na ang formula with this is valid as long as the actual production volume is within the normal or relevant range. However, in some cases, the production level outside this range may require different fixed costs and variable costs. For the third budget type is what we call the flexible budgeting. So class, this provides a solution to the problem found in both fixed and variable budget. With flexible budgeting, a formula is developed for the target amount of indirect labor that should be used for a given range of output. Kaso, ang pinaka-obvious problem with flexible budgeting is that indirect labor costs such as cleaning may not vary directly with activity measure. Kaya ang kadalasan na naging resulta para makagawa o mag-work ito ng precisely is you will develop a variance factors that expresses the response of semi-variable costs such as indirect labor to change in activity. And class, ating tandaan na these techniques requires that a budget be prepared for a target level of output and indirect costs be budgeted for that level. Then for each different direct expense, measure and record how closely the expense fluctuates compared to the direct labor costs. So for the last type is what we call the zero-based budgeting. This is another approach to budgeting. The zero-based budgeting is a very different approach from other methods and start with determining which functions are necessary to achieve your goals. The controller and manager divide expenses based on their function, similar to an organizational charts that divides hierarchy based on their job description. Then, they examine the goals of each function to determine what specific programs are necessary to accomplish them. Sa madaling salita, ito ay isang pamamaraan ng budgeting in which all expenses must be justified for each new period of time. And this zero-based budgeting allows and even requires that the manager prepare plan revised budgeted number. As a matter of company policy, the food and beverage controller should encourage the use of zero-based budgeting while noting the benefits to the both outlet manager and the operation. In other words, this type of budgeting must be sold to manager as both an operational concept and an effective tool for meeting their responsibilities. So class, ating tandaan na ang zero-based budgeting ay nagsisimula muna from zero base at the beginning of every budget period, analyzing needs and costs of every function within organization and allocating funds accordingly, regardless of how much money has previously been budgeted to any given line item. So naintindihan ba ako, class?
Yes po, teacher.
So tandaan po natin na ang budget ay nahati sa apat na type, which are the fixed or static, variable, flexible, and zero-based budget. I-take note po natin iyan at baka lumabas po yan sa quiz nyo mamaya. And syempre, kung may budget type, meron din tayong components of a budget. Sabi nga kung magsisimula ka pa lamang ng business mo, ang pagpili na magiging business type ay sobrang napakahirap. Dahil kumbaga rookie ka pa lamang dito at hindi mo pagamay how the business really works. So para mas maging effective ang pagpili ng budget type mo, you must need to know first the budget components. Ang una sa mga ito ay ang estimated revenue. So self-explanatory namang siya. But anyways, ito ang kabuang kita ng ine-expect mo sa iyong business to make from the sales of goods and services na ino-offer mo. If your business is more than a year old, then your experience will be guide you in estimating these components. If your business is new, you can check the revenue of similar local businesses and use those figures to conservatively create some estimated revenue numbers. But whether your business is new or old, it is important to stay realistic to avoid overestimating. Then the second one is one-time expenses. So ito naman ang mga unexpected costs na pwedeng mangyari sa business mo sa loob ng isang taon. Ang kadalasang halimbawa ng mga ito ay ang total cost ng pag-aayos mo ng mga nasirang furniture, gamit, o kahit yung total cost ng binili mong laptop or any equipment para sa businesses mo. Since it is difficult to predict these expenses, there is no certain way to estimate for them, but it is wise to set aside some cash for this category to stay prepared. At ang panghuli rito ay ang tinatawag na cash flow and profit. So class, this is basically the money that travels in and out of the business. You can get an idea of it from your previous financial records and use that information to forecast your earnings for that year you are budgeting for. So dito, pag nadagdagan ang iyong kabuang kinikita, it means that your business is actually growing, which is a good sign. And once you have projected how much profit you are likely to make in a year, you will be able to decide how much money to invest in each functional area of your organization. For example, gagamitin mo ba yung mga kinita mo sa iyong business to invest more in advertising or marketing to drive more sales? So alam kong nalilito rin kayo kung anong budget type ang pipiliin ninyo kung sakaling magtatayo kayo ng inyong business for the near future. But all I want to say, class, that the above stated budgeting methodologies or techniques are relevant and suitable for any kinds of businesses and can be used by all. However, para makakuha ka ng maximum advantage of the entire budgeting process, a company needs to compare and meticulously choose which budgeting technique will be the most suitable or fits right into the organization. Nang sa ganon, mas lalong mag-grow and umunlad palalo ang business na itatayo mo. So dumako na po tayo sa second part of my discussion, which is entitled about the management performance review using ROI. This section presents method for evaluating management performance on key decisions that are needed for arriving at business goals and actual results in dollars and cents. So class, when we say ROI or return on investment, this is a mathematical formula that investors can use to evaluate their own investment and judge how well a particular investment has performed compared to others. So the overall ROI for an enterprise is used as a way to grade how well a company is managed. So ang purpose nito, lalo na sa isang business, ay para ma-measure effectively ang rates or return of money that are invested sa iyong business establishment. So ano-ano nga ba ang mga benefits ng ROI? Ang una ay it generally easy to calculate because few figures are needed to complete the calculation, all of which should be available in financial statement or balance sheets. Second, it is comparatively analysis capability because of its widespread use and its ease of calculation. More comparison can be made for investment return between organization. And last is measurement of profitability. Sabi ko nga kanina, ang ROI relates to net income for investment made in a specific business unit. So it provides a better measure of profitability by company or team. ROI is defined as net operating income divided by the average operating asset. And you know what, class? The higher the return on investment of a restaurant, the greater the profit earned per dollar invested in restaurant operating asset. Dahil sabi ko nga po kanina, nakadepende sa ating ROI kung nag-earn ba or na-reach ba ni food establishment ang certain income goals niya. So to illustrate how ROI is affected by various action, pupuntahan natin ngayon si Seabreeze Hotel Restaurant as it serves our main example. So the Seabreeze operates its full-service restaurant in its Monterey Hotel. Myla Thomas' evaluation is largely based on ROI of the food and beverage division performance. The following 12 months data represent the result of operation before Myla joined the management team of SBH. It indicates here that the sales is equivalent to 500,000, the operating expenses is equivalent to 450,000, the net operating income is equivalent to 50,000, and the average operating asset is equivalent to 300,000. So para makompute po natin ang ROI, we need to follow this formula na makikita nyo sa inyong screen. ROI is equal to net operating income divided by sales times sales divided by net operating assets. So for our net operating income is 50,000 divided by 500,000 which is our sales. So ang kakalabasan nito ay 0.1. Then para makuha ang 10%, ito times natin or i-multiply natin yung 0.1 sa 100. At ganun din ang gagawin natin sa kabila. Our sales which is 500,000 divided by to net operating asset which is 300,000 is equals to 1.67. Then the next step is to multiply the 10% to 1.67 which is 0.167. Then para makuha ang ROI, we need to multiply this 0.167 to 100 for the total of 16.7 which is our computed ROI for this example. And for our final conclusion, for purposes of evaluating companies' performance and for future investment decision, companies generally prepare an annual budget that represent the financial goals of a company. Several approaches to developing a budget are possible which are the fixed budget, variable budget, flexible budget, and zero-based budget. Only by setting a clear and financial goals and implementing controls to monitor performance is a company likely to achieve a maximum profitability. Then the ROI was primarily used to evaluate the performance investment decision. Therefore, ROI is an understandable and easily calculated metric for determining the efficiency of an investment. And that will be all for my discussion. Do you understand, class?
Yes po, teacher.
Do you have any question with regards in our discussion, class?
None so far po, sir.
Okay, since you don't have any question, it is the time for your recitation. So I will be going to pick 3 students to answer my question using your own index card. Are you guys ready? Ako ready na.
Yes po, sir. Excited na po kami.
Okay, tingnan natin sino unang maswerteng mabubunot. Okay, please open your camera, Miss Chavez. The question is, what do you mean again by budget and budgeting? Can you please explain in further?
Sir, based on my own understanding, the budgeting is a written plan for a particular department's financial performance, a specific project or an organization for the period under consideration, while the budgeting is a process of looking at a business estimated incomes and expenditures, meaning to say, ang budgeting ay iyong ginagawa upang mabalanse ang ating mga gastusin kakabit ng iyong kabuuang kinita sa isang taon.
Very good, Miss Chavez.
Thank you po, sir.
Okay, the second question. Sino kaya? Okay, please open your camera, Miss Pakapak, so that I can see you. The question is, what are the different budget type again?
Based on what I have learned, those are the fixed or static, variable, flexible, and zero-based budget po.
Very good, Miss Pakapak.
Thank you po, sir.
And now let's proceed to the third and last question. Sino kaya ang maswerteng mabubunot at may tsansang sumagot sa recitation? Aha! And the third and last question will be for Miss San Miguel. Please open your cam so that I could see you too. So the question is, what do you mean again by ROI or return on investment?
Sir, based on what I have learned po in the discussion kanina, ROI is a mathematical formula that investors can use to evaluate their investments and judge how well particular investments has performed compared to others, and also this basically used to define as net operating income divided by average operating assets po.
Very well said, Miss San Miguel.
Thank you po, sir.
Okay, class, give them a round of applause. And since you guys have a deeper understanding on the lesson, you may now proceed to answer your quiz that was posted to our Google Classroom. Your quiz serves as your attendance for today's discussion. And if you do have any question, you can send me through a message for you class to address your own question. So that's the end of my discussion. Thank you guys for your actively participation. Good luck and goodbye, class!
Goodbye and thank you po, sir.
Goodbye and thank you, sir.